What is good, boys? We are back. Premier League match day 3 predictions. I appreciate you, boys. I literally took today off from streaming because of how people supported the video, showed up and watched the video, liked the video. So again, if you're new to the channel, hitting that subscribe button would mean a lot to me. Liking the video pushes it out, and I will keep continuing to be consistent. So let's get started with the recap. All right, so last week's recap. Not exactly how I'd like it to go. When I make the YouTube video, no exact scores. Only about 50% on the 1x2 predictions. Not too impressed with myself, and as you can see here, I finished 408th out of 801. Yeah, like I said, boys, not exactly great. We're gonna have to try to use both match weeks and use the odds here to help us make better predictions moving forward. All right, I just wanted to quickly go over last week's matches. Brighton versus Manchester United, I predicted 1-1 and it ended 2-1. I'm just gonna keep it real. I'm just gonna keep it honest. This one hurt. This one hurt the soul. It had felt like I had lost a massive bet. It was just snatched from me, right? It was snatched from me. No marking at the back post for United, so tough one there. Tottenham, I had 2-0. They won 4-0. I don't know how bad I want to feel about that one. Like, I did think they'd win. I didn't think Everton would score, so that one was okay. Southampton, I predicted 1-0. Nottingham Forest wins 1-0. I'm not gonna lie to you, boys. I'm not gonna lie to you, boys. It was around the 80th minute when I realized that I had Southampton 1-0 and not Nottingham Forest 1-0, so I was a bit disappointed with that. Manchester City, Ipswich scoring right away was hilarious. The score ends 4-1. I had 3-0. I won't say much about that one. Fulham and Leicester, I predicted 2-0. Leicester did end up scoring, so it finished 2-1. Crystal Palace lets me down once again, whether it's fantasy, whether it's betting, whether it's straight up just 1x2 predictions. Crystal Palace has been my nemesis. I cannot figure out their matches this year. Maybe I'm too high on them. Maybe I'm overrating Crystal Palace. Maybe we got to figure that out. Aston Villa and Arsenal. I kind of did see the vision with my 2-2 prediction here for a while. I thought it was going to end in a draw until Arsenal started bagging, goals at the end. They win 2-0. I had 2-2. Aston Villa, a bit disappointed, but also David Raya out of his mind with that one double save. I guess it was a single save, right, because the bar first. Either way, though, that was a crazy game. I did enjoy watching it at least. Wolves versus Chelsea. I'm never going to sit here and predict a 6-2 score line, so if you do think I should have been able to get that one right, I think you might be on the wrong channel, but I'm never predicting 6-2. I had 2-1. I did think Wolves would score. I thought Chelsea would just win. Chelsea hasn't performed that great away at Wolves, too, so I thought I was kind of going out on a limb with Chelsea winning 2-1, but they got the job done very easy. Newcastle, Bournemouth. I predicted a 2-1 Newcastle win. It finishes 1-1, and to be honest, Bournemouth deserved the 2-1, that handball. A bit of a tough one there. And then Liverpool, Brentford. I'll take this prediction for all it's worth. Brentford, I don't think we're really that close to scoring. Liverpool ends up winning easily 2-0. I predicted 3-1. So that is the recap of match week 2. Let's get into the predictions for match week 3. Arsenal versus Brighton is the first match of match week 3. We're seeing Arsenal at 1.33 on the 1x2. Brighton is 8.5. The books not see Brighton going into the Emirates and getting a result. So we'll look at the over-under as well here and just give it a look. We're seeing the total at 3, just set about at 3. 3 to 3.5 is kind of where the books are leaning. And then both teams' score is 1.9 for yes and no, which basically tells me they're feeling a 2-0, 3-0, 2-1, 3-1 type of game here. I think recently we can look at Arsenal's matches here and see that the defense has been incredible. I know it's only been 2 weeks. I think it's safe to say that it's not going to be easy to score goals against Arsenal, especially in the Emirates. Ooh, I mean, this is kind of crazy. Did anyone else realize this? Brighton has beaten Arsenal in the Emirates 3 out of the last 4 times. I know things have changed. I know lineups have changed. I'm not going to go into these extensively here because you can only do so much research from historical matches, but you look at it and it's kind of crazy. But I don't think I'm going to hold that. I'm not going to hold any stock in those results. I think I'm going to stick with my gut here. And I think I will project Arsenal to concede their first goal of the season here. And I think I'm going to go with an Arsenal 2-1 result over Brighton. All right, Brentford versus Southampton. We're seeing Brentford given 1.73 on the 1x2. Southampton is 4.5 and the draw is 3.9. Brentford's been a tough team to evaluate the first 2 weeks. They had a very good match against Crystal Palace at home, and they did basically nothing against Liverpool away from home. But only conceding 2 against Liverpool, with how good Liverpool is, with how much we know they can attack, I'd say is a pretty solid result for them there. I know it's not a point or 3 points, but you got to take what you can get, right? Especially when you're playing away in Anfield. So historically here, we don't have that many matches to go off of, only because Southampton was not in the Prem last year. Brentford has beaten them 2-0 and 3-0 last time, and even before then, 3-0 as well. So which brings me to the odds here. Now let's look at the odds. So the over-under for this match is right right around 2.75. So they're projecting 2.5 to about 3 goals in this match, which is pretty standard across most Prem matches that aren't very lopsided. And the both teams to score, they are expecting both teams to score in this match. It's tough for me, right? I really don't know what to make of Southampton. They've only played one game away, and that was against Newcastle, where Newcastle had a red card. And then in their 2 matches in general, they have not scored yet. So the big question here for me is, even if Brentford score 1 or 2 goals, can Southampton put one in themselves? And I think with how the both teams to score is at 1.67, but people can see that Southampton have had both teams to score no in their last 2 matches, I think I will give Southampton not only a goal scored, but also the result. I think I will go with a Brentford-Southampton 1-1 draw. Everton and Bournemouth, what a match, what a match, what a match. Just by the odds alone, you can just easily see the books are basically allowing you to bet on any 3 of the markets, 1x or 2, 2.7, 3.3, and 2.6 respectively, just telling you that there is no clear winner here. Each side could basically come through here, right? The 1 market, the 2 market, or even the draw. So let's go ahead and check the total, because I feel like I'm more interested in what the total set at. So the total is going to be set at about 2.5 to about 3. So they're probably seeing about 3 goals in this match, maybe, which is kind of interesting, right? Because Everton's attack has been pretty, let's just call it for what it is, dreadful, right? They've scored 0 goals in 2 of their matches, and they've conceded 7. Meanwhile, Bournemouth have started off their campaign with 2 draws. So Bournemouth has scored and conceded, and then you have Everton, who have only been conceding goals, which kind of would lead me to see what the both teams to score market is. And as you can see here, it is 1.62 for both teams to score. Yes, I really still think that at Goodison Park, Everton should be somewhat decent. The only question I have here is, can Everton somehow, some way get a result here, right? I feel like they're going to score, but can they get a result here? Not only do I feel like they're going to get a result, I think they're actually going to win the match. I think they're going to win the match 2-1, and they're going to get their first win of the season here. Ipswich versus Fulham. So as we know, the Ipswich versus Manchester City match was a bit of a tough one for them. 4-1 doesn't really give us a lot of information here. What does give us information is the 1x2 market. We do see the books giving Fulham a 2.3 odd on the money line, and I just have this feeling that people will see that, and they'll look at that number and be like, you're really giving us Fulham to win this match 2 points. But I think that is where this gets interesting, right? I think that's where this gets a little bit dicey. I don't think there's any point in looking at the recent head-to-heads here, because we're going as back as 2023, 2020, 2018. Also, we're talking about Fulham back in the championship. I think this will be strictly a play based on the odds here. So the over-under in the match is sitting at about 3. So they're seeing about 3, possibly 4 goals here. Now, the question I'm having, so as you can see here, the both teams to score is also 1.57 for both teams to score, yes. But the real question becomes, can Fulham just easily win this match, or will Ipswich get a result here? For this early in the season, I don't think I've seen enough to back Ipswich to have a good result against Fulham. So I feel like it'll be more of the Leicester match, where I think Fulham will win 2-1 against Ipswich. Leicester versus Aston Villa. So immediately here, it was obvious to me that Aston Villa were favorites. They didn't perform that well against Arsenal, especially considering they've been Arsenal's pain in the backside the last, couple of matchups. I expected them at least to score and make it more of a game than it was. I feel like the 1.75 is interesting. I could see people wanting to put that in parlays. I could see people wanting to take that as a single. And I'm curious how this line moves over time, because as of right now, I'm recording this video on August 26th, Monday. So by the time it's, Thursday, Friday, even Saturday morning, we'll see how this line moves a bit. So the over-under for this match is sitting about 3. Again, just right around 3 on the dot here. And they are giving Leicester respect to score a goal. They're seeing 1.67. And then just if we go through the matchups here, Leicester, both of their matches have had both teams to score happen. Aston Villa did allow a goal against West Ham. So it brings me to the question, as always, I do believe Aston Villa score, but the main question becomes, can Leicester put one in as well? So I'll have 1-0 for Aston Villa. And as I think about it more, the both teams score sitting at 1.67. I feel like Aston Villa did not allow Arsenal just easily score goals. I'm going to just stick with a 2-0 Aston Villa win, which is kind of risky. I do know it's risky considering Leicester have scored in both matches and they're playing at home, but I think this is one of those predictions where I'm going to go against that obvious logic a little bit here, and I'm going to stick with an Aston Villa 2-0 win over Leicester. Nottingham Forest and Wolves. Just real quickly, Nottingham Forest have had 2, I feel like, lower scoring matches, while Wolves, I know they conceded 6 last time to Chelsea, but I just feel like that's not going to happen. I feel like that was just one of those matches where it all falls apart and there's just no way of getting it back together. So book C Nottingham Forest as a, I'd say a pretty solid favorite. I know they're only 2 odd here, but Nottingham Forest being 2 odd against a team like Wolves is interesting. So I feel like the books are starting to think that the Wolves are maybe more bad than the public perception of them was going into the season. So Wolves are 3.5 to win. The draw is 3.6. Let's go check what both score is. I feel like all the matches have been around 1.6 to 1.7, mainly for both to score, yes. And the over-under is sitting at about 2.75. This one I have a hard time wanting to take the over on. This one, I do know that Wolves conceded 6 and they had 8 goals in their match, but I feel like Nottingham Forest matches up until this point have been kind of low scoring, slower paced. But if you do look at their recent head-to-head matches here, there is something pretty interesting with the BTS trend here. I know it's boring, but I feel like trying to hit an exact score in this match, there's only one way I think it can be done. There's only one way, and I think the only way to probably somewhat come close to a correct score here, or being on the right track in my opinion, is to take a 1-1 draw. Then we got West Ham and Manchester City. So as we all know, Manchester City don't just win every match in Prem, right? They win most of them, but there are a couple draws here and there, and there's maybe 1 or 2 losses. The books are giving somewhat respect to West Ham here. Manchester City is only, and I know it's crazy to say only for a 1.4, but still, how often are you going to see Manchester City like around 1.4 against non-top 6 teams? So that's an interesting number. They're away from home, which would make me ask the question, has West Ham performed well against City at all? They lost 3-1. They lost 2-0. They drew them 2-2 once, but this is in 2022. And after that, I feel like it's a bit outdated to check anything else there. West Ham, are we blowing bubbles recently? That they had that tough loss against Aston Villa. They deserve the draw there, in my opinion. Johan Durant kind of ruined the plans there. Manchester City away from home, there's not much to really say. There is not much to really say. I'm curious on what the both score is. 1.62, which is it's right around the same there. And then the over-under. The over-under is sitting at 3.5. The tough thing for me here is to try to debate if City will concede again. They conceded against Ipswich at home, no less. And the main question I have is, can West Ham score at home? And I feel like this 3-1, maybe a 2-1 result kind of makes sense to me. I think I will go with a City 2-1 win over West Ham. I was close to going 3-1, but I think 2-1 for Manchester City makes the most sense to me, and I'm going to lock that one in. So we have Chelsea and Crystal Palace here, and we have Chelsea sitting on the 1.62 money line for the 1x2 market, with Crystal Palace on 5 odd. This one's just tough for me because it's hard to try to forget about that 6-2 Chelsea win, because that is one of the things you have to do a little bit. You can look at the past result. You can look at the past results. You can analyze them, think about how that can help you the future result. But just because a team beat another team 6-2 does not mean they're going to come into this matchup and also win by a hefty number here. And Crystal Palace have been pretty disappointing to say the least to start the season, right? They did not beat Brentford and they did not beat West Ham. But not only did they not beat West Ham, they couldn't score against West Ham either. Let's look at Chelsea at home, because I do feel like Crystal Palace play bigger teams a little bit better. As you can see here, Crystal Palace have not gotten a result in their last 5 matchups versus Chelsea, which has got to be something to think about, as well as 4 out of the 5 have not been both teams to score, which is tough. Crystal Palace away from home, they ended the season all right. I feel like that was one of those things. They got a win versus Liverpool, they got a draw versus Fulham, and they beat Wolves, but it does feel like that these results have no impact so far on this season. So I think just wanting to see the both teams to score market being 1.57, and then the over-under is sitting at about 3 on the dot there. I think I will take a 2-1 Chelsea win over Crystal Palace. If Crystal Palace want to get a result this match, it would just be my luck, right, where I cannot predict Crystal Palace games properly. But I put respect on them in the first 2 matchups, but I feel like for this matchup, Chelsea, I feel like a lot of firepower. Defense may not be the greatest, but until Crystal Palace can prove to me that they can expose someone's back line better than they have in the first 2 matches, and I'll adjust the predictions for that. So I'll go with a Chelsea 2-1 win over Palace. Now we have Newcastle versus Tottenham. Oh man, I'd even go into this match with any thoughts, and the odds immediately tell me basically nothing, right? It is one of those classic 1x2s where it's 2.45, 4, and 2.5, essentially telling us the books are basically unsure. I'm unsure just looking at at it because they've both played some interesting matches up to this point where you have Newcastle drew Bournemouth when they really deserved the loss in that match. I thought Bournemouth played very well. They defended well for, I think, 70-ish minutes, and then they finally conceded. And then you have Tottenham here, who did have that disappointing draw against Leicester, but then they turned it around against Everton. You would think with the odds that we were given, there'd be a better way to go about this, but just looking at the recent matches here, Newcastle have beaten Tottenham at home 4-0, and then Tottenham have beaten Newcastle at home 4-1. So maybe some preferential treatment to the home team in this matchup. With the over-under sitting at about 4, a 2-2 is something that's kind of creeping up on me. I would like to get a 2-2 prediction right. This does feel like it could have a lot of goals in it. I think I will go with a 2-2 draw in this match. For some reason, the draw is just speaking to me more than anything. The amount of goals is one of those things I'm kind of uncertain about. Could it be a 0-0 draw? Could it be a 1-1 draw? Yes, it could be, I think. But I feel like for the way the odds are, for how each team destroyed the other team away from home, this matchup specifically is kind of making me feel like a 2-2. And then finally, we have the biggest match, in my opinion, of the week, Manchester United versus Liverpool. It's one of those rivalries. It is one of those rivalries, and there is little respect on United's name here at Old Trafford. Granted, Liverpool have looked much better. Liverpool do seem to be more in form, and they are kind of, they're playing great football, right? I watched some of those highlights against Brentford because I wasn't able to watch the match. I did get to see how they played, and they played pretty great. So curious to see what the over-under in this match is. It is sitting at about 3.5. Both teams to score is very low, but it's one of those things where if we do look at United historically against Liverpool here, we'll take away the friendly. 2-2 last time, 4-3 in a cup, 0-0 last time they played in Anfield, and 7-0 last time, 2023, when they played in Anfield as well. So these results here are kind of in a lot of directions, right? We've seen a lot of goals, and we've seen a 0-0. The 0-0 one, we'll scrap that, just because, like, I can't foresee myself predicting a 0-0 in this match regardless. I think there's too much firepower. The biggest question is, will Ten Hag finally start Garnacho? That's my biggest question. I'm not sure what's going on with that. I almost want to say that people will look at this 1.85 here and want to go in on Liverpool immediately, but something is strange about these odds where I feel like the draw or Manchester United to win could be, somewhat likely here. I feel like if the books truly believed in Liverpool to win this match, they'd be about 1.7, maybe 1.68 after how Manchester United lost to Brighton outright. You would think that the books would be a little bit more on the Liverpool side, but I think with how these odds look, Old Trafford, Manchester United being at home, I feel like I could go with a 1-1 draw and I could be okay with it. I think I will do that. I think I will go with a 1-1 draw in this match. I know the 1-1 draw here goes against two things that people probably believe: Liverpool being better and a lot of goals being scored. If it's a 2-2 draw, I'll still take that victory just a little bit. I'll still take that 1x2 victory in my head. I feel like a 1-1 draw on that last match day could ruin a lot of bet slips, could ruin a lot of bets, and could ruin a lot of live bets, which is something you got to think about when you're trying to predict this far in advance and trying to predict 1x2 scores in general. So that's what I will lock up with. That'll be the final prediction. I just want to do a quick little recap here. I have Arsenal to beat Brighton 2-1, Southampton and Brentford to draw, Everton to win 2-1 over Bournemouth, Fulham to win 2-1 over Ipswich, Aston Villa to win 2-0 over Leicester, Nottingham Forest Wolves 1-1 draw, Manchester City 2-1 win over West Ham, Chelsea to beat Crystal Palace 2-1, Newcastle Tottenham to draw 2-2, and United and Liverpool to draw 1-1.